Welcome to another episode of Are You Really Living podcast. We're delighted to have an incredibly special guest with us, Kelly Peraza, a devoted mother whose love for her son knows no bound. She navigates the joys and challenges of parenthood with grace and resilience, always putting her child's happiness and well-being at the forefront. Her heartwarming stories and candid insights into motherhood will resonate with anyone who understands the powerful bond between a mother and her child. Get ready for an engaging conversation filled with laughter, love, and invaluable parenting wisdom. Let's give a warm welcome to this amazing mom who truly embodies the essence of unconditional love. Let's welcome our host, Mr. Enrio Longchamp, and our guest, Kelly Peraza.
Hello, listeners. I would like to welcome you all to another episode of Are You Really Living podcast. Today's guest is Miss Kelly Peraza. How are you today, Miss Kelly?
Very good.
First of all, I would like to thank you for wanting to come on the podcast and share with us, your experiences. Recently, your student loans were forgiven.
Yeah.
So can you tell us how did that happen and what are the benefits that now your student loans are forgiven for you?
It feels like they took a load off of my shoulders. And I didn't know that much money, but I also believe that I really deserved to have had my loans forgiven, given the fact that I have been working for the government for about 16 years.
Okay. So we're not going to go into the details in terms of where you worked at and the name of the places, but for my understanding, it's because you work for the government for the past 16 years.
Yes.
And you met the criterias for you to have your loans forgiven. Is that correct? Correct. Now, for people that are listening that are thinking that, I don't want to work for the government because they don't pay enough, what would you say to those people now?
Do not pay back.
Okay.
Do not pay back. Let them garnish your wages or let them take your income tax return away, but don't pay voluntarily. Don't pay. It's not fair.
In other words, don't pay your loan.
Don't pay the loans.
Don't pay the loan.
Don't pay them.
Okay. Now, your background is you're Latina.
Yeah, I'm Latin. I was born and raised in Venezuela.
Venezuela. Can you tell us a little bit about your background in terms of how it was growing up?
It was a little sad. I really had a sad childhood, and my teenage years were I wasn't allowed to go out or anything. So those might be reasons why I decided to move out of Venezuela and come to the U.S.
Okay.
And also because I never felt like I belonged in Venezuela. I felt like I returned to the United States instead of I moved to the United States.
Okay. And have you visited Venezuela ever since you moved, or you don't have any more families?
Just once in my sister's wedding in 2006. But no, never again, and I'm not planning to go ever again either.
Okay. And your sister, are you close with your sister?
I have 3 sisters.
Okay.
I'm close to the 3 of them.
3 of them.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. I don't know if you want to share that story with us, because we were talking, you and I, and you disclosed this, you were a child when you and your sister, the hair situation, when you cut your sister's hair. So, you don't want to talk about that? I mean, it was a fun story.
Is that I told her I was going to call her, and to convince her, I told her I had been a hairdresser before I was born.
But for the audience that are listening, you were like 6 years old when that happened. Yeah, you were a baby.
Yeah.
You were a baby. Yeah. Now, where were you when you found out that your loans were going to be forgiven? Do you remember where you were, or how did you find out that your student?
That had been forgiven here in the office, maybe in the last month. I was looking for a specific email, not from them, and when I saw that email, it was saying it had been forgiven. I was like, wow, jumping and telling everyone in the office.
But did you think, you did, I believe you did the application a little while.
Yeah, I had done the application a little while back, but it wasn't, I mean, it was a friend of mine who let me know that the loans could be forgiven, for especially for people who had worked for the government, and she made the call for me. I believe they sent me an application from the Department of Education or something like that. They sent me an application, I sent it back, and I didn't expect anything to happen.
And how long ago did you do the application? Was it 6 months, a year, or you don't remember it?
In 2022.
Okay.
Yeah, around the summer and autumn of 2022.
So, okay, 2022. So let's say almost 2 years then. Almost 2 years. Well, the good news happened and it's forgiving. Now, for somebody who did their applications that, they're still waiting, what would you tell them? Call or just wait? Or what advice would you give somebody who did the application that's still waiting for their loan to be forgiven?
They did the application and they are waiting?
Yeah, what would you advise them?
Well, they would have to continue to pay the monthly fee they offer them.
Okay.
If any. They gave me a good because I was paying very little every month. So I continued to pay because I found it to be a reasonable amount of money to pay for me monthly. But I only paid 4 months.
Okay.
And then when I was going to pay the 5th month, that's when I found out I didn't owe anything. So at first I thought maybe this is a scam email or something. Mm-hmm. So I went in and logged into the Advantage. I don't know if everybody has Advantage. And that's where it says 0.00 balance.
And then you were ecstatic.
I was telling everyone, and I was here in the office, the people that are walking outside the streets, everyone I was telling about that.
How would you say, because you're immigrant, how important education is for the immigration population? In other words, school, so they can get to where they need to be in life.
I will go to a public school. I would try not to get into student loans because it's a big burden. And even if you apply, even if you apply for bankruptcy, you cannot get those away.
Correct. Yeah, you can.
Yeah. So try to to stick with public education if you can, unless your career is not offered at public colleges but try not to get into that debt.
Okay. So you will say stay away from that.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, this podcast is called Are You Really Living? So in other words, it's about inspiring others. It's about, doing something that you did that's fun and that others can listen to and be inspired by it. So with that being said, what are some stories you have that is very inspirational that you want to share with us today?
Okay. The happiest day of my life is when I had my son. The day he was born. Wow. He was born naturally, and with the pain and all, I would try to relive that day again and again because it doesn't compare with anything. The second day was the day I divorced.
The day you divorced?
Yes, that was the second happiest day of my life. And I was severely ill. With no hope of recovery one time in my life. And there was a surgeon brave enough, really young, who said, I'll do this, I'll try. And he did, and because of him, I'm now functioning and I'm now doing well. And that was the day I was like reborn. Because I could have died during that surgery. And I'm not going to go into the details of what it was.
Not a problem.
But he did it. And when I came back, you know how doctors are very skeptical? Mm-hmm. He said, you are a miracle, because it was a 5-hour
procedure
operation. Yeah. And he said during that time, there was a moment when he almost gave up because he couldn't fix the problem. And he didn't, so he didn't give up. He continued on, and he saved my life. So that was the third happiest day of my life.
Are you a person of faith? In other words, you believe in the higher power, God?
Christ.
In Christ.
I'm not religious, but I do believe in Christ.
You believe in Christ. Okay. So now let's go back to the first point, which is your son. Clearly, this was, like you said, the happiest moment of your life. How are you and your son?
We are not doing well right now. He's going through a difficult stage. He's 21 and he's going to be 22 in August, and he's like really away from me and being like disrespectful and stuff. But he can never divorce me. He can divorce any woman, but he can never divorce me. So I'm just waiting. He'll come around, and when I saw him, I realized that he is the true and real love of my life.
Wow.
It's wow. It's an experience that, some people do not like to become parents. I respect that, but for me, being a mom, becoming a mom, and meeting my son and seeing him for the first time, and seeing him so frail and beautiful, and it's joyful.
It really changed your life.
Yes. Yes.
But like, how did you see life before you had a son and after you had your son?
Before was black and white, after was in colors.
Wow. Now that's powerful. That's beautiful and powerful.
Yeah.
So,
Wow.
and then you only have that one child. Would you ever have any other kids, or?
No, I wouldn't.
You wouldn't. Okay. So now let's talk about the divorce, because you said the second happiest day of your life was when you were divorced. Let's elaborate on that. Why is that?
Because I felt I was free again, and I love freedom. You asked me one time, Professor Andrew, whether I believed in marriage, and I told you, yes, I do believe in marriage, but it's not for me. And being with him, I was in an unhappy marriage. So divorcing and knowing that I wouldn't have to put up with him anymore made me very happy, like to celebrate. My mom was with me that day. So
when you mentioned freedom, why did you mention freedom? So in other words, people that are marrying, they're not free. Can you elaborate on that?
That's how I feel. Yeah, I feel they belong to each other, and that's it. And what can you do? You are married to a person. You're tied to that person. What if you meet somebody else and you like it too?
I don't know. And that's what. But marriage is being committed to one person. That's what it's.
Yeah, but I don't want to be committed to one person. I want to be free to choose or change or go or come and go with nobody to be like, well, my owner.
But did you realize that while you were in the marriage or before you got married?
While I was in the marriage.
While you were in the marriage, that's right.
Yeah, because when I was young, I came to this country, and it was just enchantment, and he's so handsome, and this and that, and like every other girl, I want to get married, and the Cinderella story. But as you mature and you are a parent, then things change.
Now, somebody that's listening right now, they're probably saying that they don't agree with your statement in terms of feeling that you're not free. What would you say to that person?
They are married?
Yes, they're married. They say, well, I don't agree with your assessment.
They don't agree? Well, everybody has a different opinion. Maybe they are perfectly happy being together with one person for the rest of their lives. I am not.
Okay. So another word for you is not being with one person. It's having the ability to choose.
Exactly. If you want to, it doesn't mean to become a promiscuous or anything like that. But if you are married, your bank account is if it belongs to the two of you. What if you are the only one who works to put the money into that account? If you are married and you sell your house, it has to be divided between the two. Why? If you put all the money for that house, that's not for me.
That's not for you. And again, for the listeners, we are the statement that Miss Kelly's making. It's for her. and her belief in her choice. Now, how can I put this question? For somebody who's thinking about marriage, what advice would
Do not make that mistake, because you will probably end up paying even for the divorce. Do not make that mistake. Even explore. I mean, I don't believe in love like that much. Only the love I feel for my son, that's the only love I feel. But explore life, travel if you like that, or do stuff, your hobbies, but no, don't get married. Don't be stupid.
And
I'm sorry.
did I have to I have to ask, did you, before the divorce, did you try marriage counseling? Did you try counseling?
I tried. I registered. I went to a church. We were going to a retreat. We were going to go to a retreat in a Catholic church. But even my ex-mother-in-law, she said she would take care of the baby because the marriage was so bad. And we were fighting and arguing so much. And he said he wouldn't. He said he didn't need advice from anybody. He didn't want to go to a psychologist. So I was trying to do everything. I did everything I could. I don't feel guilty for the marriage having been broken. I assume I had part in it because it's always half fault. But no, he wouldn't cooperate to try to fix it. So this is it.
So in other words, the counseling didn't really work for you guys.
Didn't work because he never wanted to go. If he had gone, I don't know. But he thought he knows better than the psychologist or than the priest or than the counselor.
Now, I have to ask this question. If somebody right now were to come to you, you madly in love with, would you marry that person? Hashtag Mark Anthony.
I would think about it.
Okay. So in other words, the door is not closed all the way.
It's not closed all the way, but I really would think about it deeply and go to counseling before getting remarried or before remarrying. Yeah.
So in other words, you're saying before getting married, somebody should. What will you say are the do's and don't before getting married? What I mean by do's and don'ts in other words.
You know what? This is gonna be. I thought I knew it all. Also, when I was young, I'm going to live together first, and then we will get married, and before living together, of course, we'll date. I followed all of those steps and still didn't work. Okay, we dated for about 6 months, then lived together for about 6 other months, then got married, and it didn't work the way I thought it was going to. Well, this is a very personal. Well,
yeah, you don't have to get into it. You cannot get into it because I don't want
that part that changed the day right after we got married on a Friday, and on Saturday, what happened? It was the biggest disappointment. Like, what have I done? And it was late. I was already married. Whatever.
But I have to stand. Let's talk about, were there any good thing that happened in the marriage? What were some good things in terms of like
the good things that we share, that is that we love to go to restaurants.
Okay.
I like to eat a lot. He does too, and try different foods and different restaurants. And sometimes movies too, but not as much. And my son.
And yours.
That's the best.
I can see how happy you get when you talk about your son like he's like the love of your life.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is a podcast, is going to be on the internet forever.
Oh.
Is there any message for him that if he's listening to it now or in the future, anything you want to tell him that you never really had a chance to tell him?
I always tell him, but I'm going to tell him again, I love you, and I will love you until the end of my life, with the last breath that I take. You'll always be in my heart, even if I'm not physically in this world, and I love you beyond measure.
Well, with that, I'm going to have to close the podcast with that. There's nothing else to be said.
Thank you.
Well, thank you again. Thank you so much for coming by and talking to us. We'll talk again soon.
Okay, good luck for the ones who want to get married.
Thank you.
And that, dear listeners, wraps up another exhilarating episode of Are You Really Living? We hope you were inspired and learned something new. Remember, life is not just about surviving, it's about truly living, embracing every moment with passion, purpose, and curiosity. Stay curious, stay bold, and most importantly, stay truly alive. Until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep living your most extraordinary life. If you haven't, please subscribe, like, and share this episode with everyone. Finally, dream big, live boldly, and always ask yourself, are you really living?